learn a bit more about this, and it's not as simple as just making the sales. There's a lot more to the back end of it, and so the fact that you had somebody there giving you that guidance and support is really valuable, like you say. And I guess that for you then, when starting your own business, kind of shortens the gap a little bit, right? Because you've got some skills that you can leverage to manage the situation a bit better. And what I mean by the gap is taking that leap of faith, right? Because everybody that I know that's thought about starting a business for the first time, it's like, yep, it's pretty scary over that distance. Like,
very scary.
What if I don't make it?
And to be honest with you, I didn't consciously think like that until I started. It sounds really odd. Now, bearing in mind, I've spent many years in corporate sales, marketing, business development. The day you start in business, it's kind of like, what do I do now? What am I doing? And it was only really then you go, okay, actually, I know how to do this because of that, and I know how to do that because of that, and you kind of bring all that together. And that's the joy of a franchise, is the fact that a lot of the systems are in place, a lot of the the product structures, and all the rest of it is in place. So you haven't got to think about that, And I got an accountant before I started, so I hadn't got to think about that, And so a lot of these things were there. So once I'd kind of got that lot in my head, it just simplifies it. It just simplifies the whole process.
Yeah. So that was the next step then, is investing in Itseeze franchise. Is that right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. So why them? That's the place to start, right? Why start your own business, and then why them? I think are the two important questions I want to ask there.
Good plan. Why start your own business? Funnily enough, I'd thought about it for years. And I always classed myself as a frightened entrepreneur, because I was investing and spending a lot of other people's money, which is not really very fair. But we did really well, so it was always good. But I've always had a hankering for doing something for myself, and also my personal mentality is I'm not great at taking instruction. I like people who encourage. I like leaders. I don't necessarily like managers. Going back to WD-40, there was a guy there called Bill Noble, who's still the European and Middle East and African MD, and I'd walk through walls for that guy. He was a true leader, but I very few managers, hierarchy within business have been like that, and you kind of told what to do, and you're told, and let's put your targets together. No, actually, we'll tell you what your targets are, and that kind of principle. Yeah. And my psyche kind of isn't really wired up for that. And once again, I only really realised that properly once I'd left. And I'm a great believer in self-development. Go to a lot of talks and stuff like that, and kind of pick all this stuff up. So that's kind of why I wanted to do my own business. When it came to what I wanted to do, I went about it the wrong way, so I wasted a bit of time. I was thinking, right, okay, I've done the corporate stuff, I've done all that. I'm going to go and mow lawns for a living, or knock dents out of cars, or whatever I feel like doing. And then I read a book, and I'm sure it was a Times publication, and I haven't got it at the moment. I've lent it to somebody, it will come back one day. And it was basically saying, if you're starting a business, to work out what it is you want from the business rather than what you want to do, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Because I may say I want to mow lawns for a living, or landscape gardening, but do I want to be out in all weathers, and will I work during the winter? Probably not. None of that stuff. Hadn't even thought about that. So actually, I regrouped and said, what do I want out of the business? And it was kind of like, I'm happy working from home, which I still do. I could expand to an office, but didn't need to. Do I want to hold stock? No, that's stock investment. There's cost. And it asks you all these questions. But when it came down to it, and then I thought about, okay, and it does ask you what your background is and what your skill set is. And my background and skill set is business development and marketing. And it all came together, and this little light bulb just went off and said, websites. Also a real challenge for me, because I'm not technically a website guy. I know what websites do, I know how they work. I know for me, it's a marketing tool, and that's the discussion I have with clients. What's your business about? Where's your business going? How can we develop a website for you? It's nothing to do with the technical side of it. So once I'd worked that bit out, is that okay? I'm not going to code a website myself. So then the franchise idea came up, and that's when I started trawling for franchises in the web world, and that's basically the process. That took about a year. Yeah, that's quite a long process. By the time I wasted a few months, and then took it past that.
Why Itseeze websites?
Okay, I did talk to a few. I went to, once again, I'm a great believer in talking to people face to face, so I go to a lot of shows. Went to shows where franchise shows where people are selling franchises, talk to people. And without naming names, and I won't name names, it's very unfair. The ethics in the business, in the industry, it's all right. Probably better now than it was, but anyway. But then I fell across the guys at Itseeze, and I can't remember exactly how I found them. I think I probably filled in something in a newspaper or something, and in these things came, and this guy phoned me up from Itseeze and said, "Oh, you've contacted us." Yes, did that, and they're down in Torquay. I mean, they're a long way away from where I am. And everything's very much personal with them. It's face to face. Let's talk. Let's get this going. And it's kind of organising that time to get down and see them. Once again, was a period of time, quite a period of time. But then once I'd been to see them, it was instant. It was like, I want this. I want this. And what I really liked about, well, apart from the fact the product is fabulous, and the pricing is crazy cheap for what we do. It's not a cheap product, it's massively good value, but when you consider the website world, we are very much on the low end in the cost end, but very much high end in the efficacy of what we deliver, which is, and I'm going to say that because I work here, but if I didn't work here, I'd buy one of these. So that's just how I am. But what really struck me was the people, because you got these people there who just want to do a great job. They want to get good customer service. Yes, I was taken through the technical part of it because I went down there for a whole day, and you get that much of the technical part, but the rest of it is that this is what we're about. This is our ethics. This is how we're trying to help. Very much the champion of the small to medium sized business, and I just loved everything about them, and all the people I met as well. I'm thinking I could work with these people. For me, I'm very much a people person. If that had given me a bad feeling, I wouldn't have wanted to know. So I said, yes, I want to do this. And then the thing that really clinched it, they said, great, go away for a month. We're not going to sign you up. You go and do your due diligence. It was like, no, you didn't understand. No, I want to do this. They said, yeah, I know, we heard you. Off you go. Talk to us in a month's time. To really give me as much time as they think I needed. I needed about 30 seconds, but I did do the work. I went away and did everything they said. And I'm sure to give them a time to think as well and all the rest of it. And then literally on the second the month was up, I phoned them and that was it. And then off we went.
Yeah.
Gave my notice in where I was and happy days.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's really good that they, looking at it ethically, I think alarm bells would be ringing for a brand that is trying to shuffle you through as quickly as possible in my mind. Like, if they're trying to drag you in and sell to you from day one as well, like I'm imagining some of those brands perhaps were like at the show back then. It is a little bit better. Well, it's a lot better now, but
much better now.
I get what you're saying. You kind of
bearing in mind, I didn't talk to thousands of people. I talked to 4, 5, 6, and they were just chalk and cheese. They were massive different ends of the scale. So it's probably lucky that I did talk to people at those ends of the scale because it made it easy to really stand out. There might have been 3 or 4 that have been very similar. Then it would be a difficult decision, but I didn't have a difficult decision, which was cool.
Yeah. So, what were kind of the hurdles you had to overcome in your mind to say yes? Because I imagine at some point there's going to be some fears, right? You were like, well, what if it doesn't work and that kind of stuff. What were your main fears though?
That it wouldn't work. And so most people put a budget aside for starting a business. My budget was put aside that if it failed in 6 months, I could live for a while and then go and find a job. And absolutely brutal. That's exactly how I was thinking. And then 6 months down the line, that money I put aside, I put back into a savings account because I didn't spend a penny of it. And the business was rolling at that point. So it was that whole kind of, although I've done this kind of work for years, in fact, not so much in the kind of, certainly not on my own B2B sales, often it's been B2C type stuff, or to retailers who are then It's2C kind of thing. It was a total leap of faith, and it was just back into that whole kind of, I haven't done this before, let's give it a go. But it worked out all right.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, how long now have you been with Itseeze?
About 14 years now.
14 years, nice. So must have renewed in that time as well. So
yeah, I'll be third renewal will be, so it's a 14 years in March coming up, and then so be renewing again the following year.
Yeah, fantastic. So I guess what you did there is put a safety net down, right? Like just in case you've got that.
And I would advise anybody to do that. If anyone goes in with no backup of cash, don't do it. You've got to have something behind you. Even if you're borrowing to buy a franchise and have some working capital, you've got to have working capital behind you.
Yeah, I personally think it should be at least a year's worth of whatever you need to survive, right? Like as an absolute backup, because things can take a while to take off for whatever reason. Maybe it just doesn't click. Maybe something happens in a personal life. Maybe it's an industry that's taken a dip for a little while. There's so many variables, isn't there, that they're the same as if you're starting your own business. And maybe that's a question to ask you actually, is why not start up something on your own?
I think that's the safety net of a franchise. I mean, when you look at how many businesses fail in the first year versus how many franchises fail, or in the first 5 years, whatever that might be, the ratios are massively different. And also the industry I was walking into, the technical expertise I didn't have. So the franchise there has the technical expertise because we have designers, developers, coders, all these kind of guys, which I would have had to have outsourced. So immediately you've got the cost of outsourcing. Well, you might as well have the cost of the franchise, and then it's people rather than taking risks. So it's simple as that, really.
Yeah. I have to admit, I went down a similar journey as you at one point. I wanted to get into digital marketing, and I went and looked around a few franchises. Unfortunately, I didn't come across Itseeze. But
they've still got some of that.
Oh, I know, and Alex, I'm sure would love for me to be reminded of that fact. But I actually what came out of it was I looked the brands that I looked at. I kind of thought, well, I changed the logo because I don't think that's good enough for a marketing company. I would change this messaging. I would change, and I thought, right, I'm not a very good franchisee.
That ain't gonna happen. No.
I'm not a very good franchisee. I need to do it myself. So, I'm thankful to them for that at the very least. But I think the most important thing is just to be aware that it's there as an option, right? And okay, I didn't go for that. I went for something on my own. But it's been interesting because I'm in the industry and starting a business of my own. I can really see the benefits now, like the decisions as to what color you're going to use in your logos. I procrastinated over that for hours, right? And while I'm doing that, I'm not earning money.
Exactly.
And I looked at the price of creating someone else creating a logo. I was like, I don't want to spend that much on it. I'll do it myself. And so spent days over that, and it's the million and one little tiny decisions that I have to make and procrastinate over on a day-to-day basis in the early stages that I now see where and why, a franchise fee, what it goes towards. It saves people so much time doing that. So,
I mean, you're shortcutting the process. The franchise allows you to shortcut the process. It's also depending on, I was fairly early in. I wasn't the first franchisee, but I was fairly early in. So a lot of the bumps have been ironed out, and it will continue developing anyway. So that's fine. But in the early stages, of a very base start, and then it kind of goes up from there. And so all that work is kind of done for you. And if you don't particularly like, there's going to be things within the franchise, I'm sure that I think I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but it's not. It's not earth-shattering. It's not a big issue. If I didn't like the name or the colour of the logo, it's what it is. There's no point in sweating over it because it's what it is. And by the way, it's fine, no problem. So many questions about that as well, about the logo, where the name comes from, and everything else. So it's one of the main things I ever get asked by customers. To be fair, but anyway.
Well, that's quite good because I mean, since I've put guitars in the background, it's a good talking point. And when you're doing any kind of sales development or kind of interacting with potential clients, it just makes those conversations start off nice and easy, doesn't it? So if people are asking about the logo and where the name came from, sweet.
Once again, if I go back when I started, there were website guys everywhere, and we didn't have a great reputation. I used to say networking meetings were somewhere between estate agents and serial killers, with that. No disrespect to serial killers, we're somewhere in the middle in terms of reputation. And so I purposely never put websites underneath the name Itseeze. because people, it's easy websites. A website guy, I don't want to talk to him, and they avoid you. Whereas if you just put that, they come and ask you what it means. So it's just one of those things. I've just stuck with it. I've never changed that. But it sounds like I'm really slagging the industry. I'm not. There are some very, very good people in the industry, but I've come across some horror stories. And what I don't want is for us to be lumped into that bucket, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We do stand out. I think we have got a great product. And I think what we stand for is really, really good. And so I'm proud of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I can kind of back you up on that one because I'm actually a client of Itseeze. So our website, yeah.
Quite right.
But I started off, because of my approach of I can do it all myself. I don't need,
myself, yeah.
I started off with, I think it was, Wix. I had a look at Squarespace and all these other sort of website builders.
Yeah.
And I could build a website myself.
Wix ain't bad, actually.
And they templates are there. They're all right. There's some sort of customizable bits. But what happened and why I changed was all of a sudden I had a problem that I couldn't deal with, and they didn't provide the functionality, and I couldn't speak to anyone there, and I just got kind of put through to chatbots, and all of a sudden it just became a nuisance. And 6 months in, basically, I stopped using them because they couldn't do what I wanted it to do. And so that's where I see the it's easy side of things is you actually have a real person to talk to and actually interact with. So from a client's perspective, I can see and back you up on what you're saying. It works really well.
Way back to that first conversation I had with them, it was the people that I bought into as well. So it really does kind of follow through. And to be honest with you, and also the route you went though, is that I've got a huge amount of respect for anybody who tries to do it themselves to start with, because it's not as simple as it seems. It's okay. You've got to be vaguely technical just to kind of get your head around it to create the website. Okay, that's not the point. The point is your business, what you're trying to achieve, where you're going, target market, where you're thinking about colours for logos and stuff like that. Have you considered your target audience? All these kind of things. Well, my background's marketing and business development, so I bring all that to the fore. And actually the technicality of the website is irrelevant to most of my clients. Some want to know, some want to look at that, it's absolutely fine, taking through all that. But most of them just want to know that we're going to help them to build their business. And that's the same with anything. I think anything you sell, you're there to help them with their business. If you're a cleaning company, you're helping their business look really nice and sparkly because they've got clients coming into the building and they want their staff to be happy working there. Everything's for a reason, and I think that's where we're somewhat different in that we really approach it with that in mind rather than the technical aspect. Because the technical aspect is less important in reality to my clients.
Yeah, it's selling the why instead of the how, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't know if you've ever seen the Simon Sinek talk about it, the golden circle, he calls it. Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? Like
great. That book, Start With Why, is one of my favourite books actually. And the whole limbic brain and the neocortex and how they're fighting with each other all the time. It's fascinating. I love all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it's so true as well. Just from my own perspective, how I position myself to clients, I find if I share my story and explain why I do what I do, it really, really helps them they always resonate with one part of the story somewhere and kind of go, well, I get where you're coming from. And this ties into my values and it works totally, doesn't it? So, that's good. So, what's the future for you then? What we talked about exit strategies earlier. What's is there one on the horizon? What does that look like?
No idea. When I was in corporate, it was like, when can I retire? Let me retire now. Now I'm doing my own thing and enjoying it. You kind of think, do I have to retire? I don't have to retire. I can do what I want. I kind of got 70 in my head as an age, but doesn't necessarily follow. I think a lot of stuff with when you get to a certain age, I am of a certain age, that you take it. Things will happen. Stuff will come out of left field. There was, Tim Minchin.
Yes, yeah.
I guess you know Tim Minchin. He did a talk. He was at his old university, I think. He was doing a talk to students about life goals and stuff like that. And he was talking about always have a goal, but you don't be fixated on it because stuff will come out of this side and this side and this side. And if you don't keep an eye on those, there might be something there that moves you in a different direction. So the nice thing is I haven't got a boss telling me that I'm retiring at a certain point. I haven't got a need to retire or a need to stay in work. I do it because I enjoy it. While that continues, I see no reason to change that. So yeah, at some point, and the nice thing about the franchise, it has value. So because there is, if you're selling a business, you'll know this. If you're selling a business, the value of the business depends on the structure of the business. Staff you've got, is there, client base and all this kind of thing. Well, the structure's there because there's a franchise. So that's there. The product's in place. It's constantly being developed. There's a client base, so you've gone from, I've taken the risk by taking on a blank area. It's now been developed, and there is now a business that can be sold. So the exit strategy at some point will be, there's my pensions, there's my business sale, and go and sit and put my feet up somewhere. But can't see it yet. Can't see stop.
But I guess the thing is, you've built an asset that's at value, that's going to work for you. You've got that plan sort of there, ready for when it is time to press exit.
And you're right. And you were saying about what do you do when you start on the risk elements. It's even less risk now when somebody buys a franchise that's already been worked, because the basic work's been done, and therefore you haven't just bought a franchise area. You're now buying a business that is there, and it's setting. You've got your starting point. You've got your ready income. It's already there. It's a bit like buying a new house off plan on a new housing estate. It goes up in value relatively quickly. And while you're there for your 3, 4, 5 years, I know people who serially do this, you make it into a home. It's not just a blank canvas. It's now a home that people are buying into. So that work's been done, and they've added the patio, and they've added the conservatory and all this kind of stuff. So it just gives it more value.
Yeah, and repair all the kinks as well that ultimately come with the new houses.
All the things have been knocked out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so have you got one territory, multiple territories? Do you employ staff?
It's I have one territory. That's enough. I've considered all sorts. There's I did consider bringing in staff. I decided to go the route of third parties, so I employed a VA, really good VA actually, who was with me for a few years. And I've also had ideas of getting an office somewhere and having like a collaborative group.
Yeah.
So myself, a copywriter, a graphic designer, whatever, get them in with social media, get them in one room, and we'll have collaborative space. You're sharing the cost of the space, and also you're doing that. That never really came off, but that's okay. But I do a lot of that sort of work. I farm stuff out to a lot of people. So I'm quite happy, once again, at my certain age. I'm 65. I keep saying certain age. I'm 65. And I'm at a point now where I'm not going to start suddenly building a big empire of people. So I see me doing this on my own until the day I do stop. But I also have third-party people that I meet through networking where I do a lot of outsourcing. So I do have a team around me, which basically starts with my accountant who keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
And then the other people who are just beneficial to my business because I can bring them in to help my clients. So that's the way I do it. So yeah, I don't see me ever taking it outside of this. It's very easy to do. Certainly the franchise encourage it. There are territories around me that I could buy and bring people in. But as I say, probably should have done that 10 years ago.
Yeah, but the flexibility is there, right? To build it however you want to. And I think that's the important thing. Like you say that now, but 10 years ago, it might not have been right for you at that point in time, right? So
I probably at that point was just going into let's build as fast and hard as I can, and earn money and pay the bills and do all that kind of stuff. And I really wasn't massively focusing on 10 years, 15 years down the line.
Yeah, and that's fair enough, right? You can. The thing is, not saying you want to, but I guess the opportunity is there at the moment, right? Like you could if you wanted to, but yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's. Yeah. Or you could merge territories with another franchisee. Bring them in, put two of us working together under one business. It's doable.
Yeah.
There's the nice thing about it is the franchise is very supportive and will encourage you to do what you want to do. They won't tell you to do it, which is great, suits my psyche. But they will encourage you to do anything that you want to do to build it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually. So you mentioned before that in employment you don't enjoy being told what to do. Actually, you enjoyed somebody encouraging that growth. A lot of people will say if you sign up to a franchise, you have to follow the rules. You follow the steps. You do what you sort of explained on how to do it. You know, it's all written down. If you don't, you fail. Yeah. How have you found it from that perspective? Have you felt like there's been elements that you have been told to do, and how does that kind of feel?
No. When I first joined, it was the old, I don't know if I've still got it. I might have somewhere. There was a book about this thick with all the franchise, and here's what it is, and here's blah blah blah, which I probably read once. But anyway, we did the original training, but it's very much about you go and work your business. Now we do have within the business the kind of expectations of sales, which is fine, because I think that's the right thing to do anyway. Because if you didn't have that, you could easily go into the franchise and go, do you know what, for 6 months I won't do anything. I'll just, that's no good to me. So I need to have an idea of where I want to go with it, and the numbers they kind of put together are actually very realistic to do. So that's fine. That's the only thing really. And even then, it's an encouragement thing. It's not, you haven't hit and off you go. It's an encouragement. That's really where you want to be, because that will generate certain income and all the rest of it. Equally, you need to do that because the franchise needs to generate income so they can keep developing and making the system better. So that's a two-way process. And I think that's fine. Outside of that, how I work is my choice.
Yeah,
absolutely my choice. Early stages, I fell into business networking fairly early on, which wasn't really high on the radar of the franchise at that particular point in time. And I just fell into it and was successful very quickly using business networking. And that's now become almost a mainstay of what we do in terms of developing new business. But yeah, no, it was almost like, here's some help, here's what we think, here's some ammunition. You go and do what you want with it. So that's probably what endeared me to them as well. Now, whether they said that or not, I don't know, but that's certainly what I heard. But it's worked for me. It's fine.
Do you know what? It sort of sounds like it's a bit of both, which I think sometimes people need a bit of both, right? You need a little bit of balance, and that almost sort of mirrors kind of mirrors what you had going on with Red Bull, which was very much in one direction, and WD-40 in the completely opposite direction. Actually, somewhere in between is
about right. Yeah,
it is about right.
The nice thing about franchise as well, because there's a load of me out there. There's lots of us doing what we do, so we're a team. We talk to each other because we have a specific area, and we don't have the other guy's area. We don't if I've got a bit of work, it gets passed over. So we talk to each other. So we have got this kind of wider team and network, and it is a little bit like working for a business. You have fellow colleagues, you have an office, you have systems, which are the nice thing about it is all the systems are in place. I haven't got to think about all the system stuff, but I'm self-employed, so you do have that. I think you're right. It's somewhere in between employment and self-employment. Is this franchise bit in the middle, because you're being given the structure, but then do with that what you will.
Yeah.
As opposed to here's the structure, do it, or off you go.
Yep. Like I say, I could totally see the benefit. now I'm going doing it myself, but yeah. I don't think I'd change what I've done.
No, once you're down a route, you don't.
Yeah, but you kind of learn. But you know what? In the future, I can easily see myself investing in a franchise, for sure. Because and
the nice thing is, you haven't got to do it. Yeah, but you haven't got to do it. You can buy a franchise and put staff in. I could buy another area and put somebody in to manage it, and all these kind of things. There's no reason why not. Multiple franchises are always going to be stronger because you've got, the numbers that will back you up, kind of thing.
What's been the most inspiring or proudest moment, either or, moment of your career?
Wow. I think a lot of the stuff I do that is, well, I have to say the first thing I've got to say is what I do now, to actually take something from scratch, yes, with the help of a franchise, and still be here 14 years later and still developing and still, things are moving forward. I think is really good. I think weirdly Red Bull, for all its sins, to take it from where it was to where I didn't take it to where it is now, but take it to a point where it kind of leapfrogged to where it is now, was kind of pretty special to be part of that. Yeah, they're probably the two things, but mostly this, to be honest with you, actually being able to do this.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you've worked some big brands and had some big job titles in there as well. And I think a lot of people aspire to have the name or to be a big company, right? But actually, it's it's not the be all and end all, is it?
No, and to be honest, at the time when you're in it, that's exactly what you're trying to do. Where's the next promotion? Where's the next this? Where's the next that? When you come out of it and you look back, you start to realise what's important.
Yeah.
And the years I spent not seeing my kids grow up because I was at work and all this kind of stuff. Almost kissing them goodbye in the morning while they were sleeping and kissing them goodnight at night when I got home when they were still sleeping. And they say you shouldn't have regrets. I have huge regrets about stuff like that. But that's what corporate, don't know so much these days. I think it's getting better, but certainly back then, that's exactly what it was about. You gave your life to the company. And so what I do now is I'm much more relaxed about it. I just think I'm earning less money now than I did in a lot of my jobs, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you get to control your time and do what you want to do with it, whether that's family stuff or otherwise, guitar playing, right?
Absolutely. Or you're playing these things. Yeah. Still don't do enough of that.
No, I don't think most people do. Like, I have weekly lessons, and I'm like, I've got to try and fit that in tonight if I can.
Yeah.
But all good. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then my last question is, if you were sitting in front of somebody who's potentially about to invest in a franchise, whether that's Itseeze or any others, and you're only allowed to give them one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be?
I think I'd flip back to what I said earlier. Work out what you want it to do for you. That's the critical bit. Is when you've worked out what you want out of your life as well as your business, and is that business going to give you that for your life, and how is it going to do that? Then decide what you want to do.
Yeah,
there's no point in really loving the outdoors and working in an office, the kind of thing. You've got to really understand what you want out of it, because you're working, a lot of hours. The percentage of your life you're actually at work and all this kind of stuff. You've got to do something that you really want to do, and that thing has then got to deliver your outcomes. Back to what you said earlier, actually, your outcomes in the longer term of exiting the business. What is it that you really want out of it? Then decide what you're going to do. That would be my best advice. I read that in a book somewhere.
I fully agree with it, because I got to the point where I didn't change jobs a lot, but I was getting fed up of the same pattern repeating, and me going, well, I don't want to wait until someone dies before I get a promotion, or that's not what I want. And the time piece as well. I think once you sit down and work out and analyze what is my current work path looking like, you kind of realize, what am I doing this for, really? I think you're 100% right. There's no point in just going, that business looks exciting, because you can get yourself in debt very quickly if you're struggling to manage it in terms of time, or you're not passionate about it. So 100% agree with you there.
And there's going to be people in totally different situations where they're working for whoever they're working for because they need the mortgage paid or the rent paid and the bills paid. Absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And you may be at a point in your life where you really can't take the levels of risk that maybe you or I took. But maybe it will come one day. There's no reason you can't have the aspirations. But it's about, and I think nowadays there's. I'm sounding like I am old, fair enough. But I think businesses are really getting to recognise now that there's people in their businesses; they're not just employees. And I think as long as you're in the right business, you can do what you want to do, and you can have a healthy life, and you can, all those kind of things within corporate or smaller businesses, if that's what you want to do. But you do also have the option to break out on your own as well.
Oh, that's the thing. I think they're all options, and they should all just be considered as options. And
I agree.
But being self-employed at one point did not suit me at all. It wouldn't have done, or being a franchisee. So and it may change in the future. I think I'd have to find the right company to go and work for now. But I'm not closing. I've not closed that door ever.
No, and nor should you. And I think the way of looking at it is, if this exploded tomorrow, and it won't, but if it did, do I need to earn some money? Yes, I do. Would I go and work somewhere? Yes, I would. or with the contacts I've now got, where I say, actually, I can do consultancy work on certain aspects of what I do, and I could actually carve out a small business on my own without a franchise if the franchise didn't exist tomorrow. Thankfully, that's not going to be the case. That's good, but you got to earn money. So,
yeah,
and your ideas may change in a week's time or 10 years' time. You don't know.
I think for people in employment, though, I'd encourage them, if they have worked out what they want and they're not doing it just yet, is maybe use an hour a week. Like, if that's all you can spare, use an hour a week to move yourself a millimeter closer,
a step forward,
educate yourself on something or whatever it may be to get to that point. But no, I appreciate people have got to earn and they've got to pay mortgages and stuff. So you do what you do until you're able to, I guess.
And a lot of new clients that I get on board are people who are still working, and they're training in the background to do something else, or getting an educational or accreditation for something. And then, yes, I want to get the website ready, but I'm not ready to launch the business for a year or 6 months. Lots of that goes on. And I've got a huge amount of time for these people, because these are not going into franchises; they're doing it on their own. And they're slightly less risk in the very early stages because they've got an income over here, but at some point they break that, that salary coming in, and then they're totally on their own. So a huge amount of respect for those sort of people.
Yeah.
And if you talk about being inspired earlier on, that's inspiration in its own right. I've got a client who invented a new product in the automotive industry to do with safety, patented it, done the whole thing. Yeah, he's 71, and he's just doing this now. And you just think, fair play.
Good on you.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing your story and your thoughts and your advice. I've really appreciated it and really found it interesting. There's a lot in there that I really kind of resonated with, which is, it's been really cool and an enjoyable conversation for me. So thank you very much for your time.
No, I've had fun. Enjoyed it.
Awesome. Cheers, Steve.
Thanks, Nate.
If you enjoy meeting people, building relationships, and have a desire to start and grow a successful business, then get in touch now.